welcome. This is Tracy Wagner with Versatile Inspirations, and today we are going to visit Clairaudience. So let's get started. Perfect. Alrighty. Like I said, we are going to visit Clairaudience today. So what is Clairaudience? Clairaudience means clear hearing. Now, when we say hearing, we may not be hearing it physically, audibly with our ears. What happens is we have ear chakras. And some people may have heard of them, maybe you haven't heard of them, but what ear chakras are inside of our subtle body. And just like our chakra system, it's part of our chakra system, but we can hear with these very sensitive ear chakras. Some people call it ESP. So what it does is you may have a sense of a song, you may have a sense of a rhythm or a beat, or just people talking that maybe you can't hear. Now, something interesting, I don't know how far along you are with your spiritual journey and figuring out all this, all these, those, and that's of it. But if you're working on your clairs, how I started mine was I actually started reading books by Doreen Virtue and Sylvia Brown, and just trying to find information anywhere I could once I heard about the clairs, and trying to just get more knowledge and learn a little bit more about them and how I can use them. So Sylvia Brown actually talks about how we get spirit communication, sometimes with a ringing in our ears, and every once in a while that could be the case. If it persists, you want to go to the doctor. That's not necessarily something you want to mess around with. If you constantly have that, it may be something else. So make sure you go to the doctor if it persists. But what it could be is the high-pitched frequency of spirit trying to get your attention and trying to give you messages. And all we need to do in that case, if you are experiencing that, or if sometimes you'll just get this garbled information, what we can do is we can ask that spirit gives us information so that we can understand it. Either slow down or speak clearly. Languages, maybe it's not in a language you know. What is the message there? Sometimes we can hear it audibly. So we hear with, a lot of times, with the ear chakras. Now, some people call it ESP, or extrasensory perception, and ESP also can work with a bunch of other things, like basically the clairs, or our intuition is basically what I think of it as. And so with the clairaudience, sometimes we may even get messages that are so clear and so audible that we feel like it's in the same room, like somebody just whispered in your ear. Some people experience that, especially if the message is coming through that needs to be heard. It's going to be more audible and more recognizable and clearer. And so especially the more that you use the clairaudience, you're going to have that where it's clearer to you. We can pick up with our ear chakras, ESP, or even audibly, sounds, music, vibrational tones, and rhythms and beats that maybe other people in the room can't hear. I have a tendency just recently to where I was getting, it was the weirdest thing. I could hear a rotary phone when we used to have the landlines and we would have to use the rotary phone, you could hear the like the dialing. You could hear it go bup, 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 bup. And I was audibly hearing this, I mean, a lot. And it was interesting. Every time I would get that, it would be, you need to call your dad. And then it would do it again. And then you need to call your dad. And those were audible things. I even asked my husband a couple times, do you hear that phone? Because it's really loud. And I called my dad and all was well. We just had a really lovely conversation and everything was fine. But maybe he needed to hear from me. Maybe I just needed to validate that everything was okay. It didn't matter. The fact is I kept getting this message, and about the third time, for me, it's always 3, it seems like, but the third time I heard this, I stopped what I was doing and I called. And like I said, all was well. It was just a hearing thing. I heard it and I heard that message at the same time that I was hearing it, but nobody else in the room could hear it. All right. And who do we hear messages from? We hear messages from people, plants, animals, things, and spirit. Things could be anything. We can hear messages from our business. We can hear messages from our tables. We can hear messages from our car. We can hear messages from anything. And once we're in tune and we're in the present moment, we can hear those messages a lot clearer. So clairaudience, the tools that we can use for that are numerous. They are, of course, our ear chakras, cards, oracle cards, tarot cards, anything, dreams. A lot of times we can hear our messages a lot better when we have basically kind of put our physical body in that sleep mode or that just peaceful mode. We can receive those messages and they'll come to us in dreams a lot of times. There again, as in meditation, when we lower our physical world, when we come back to present and we kind of just stay in a peaceful state, we're able to receive those messages a lot clearer. And sometimes they're very persistent, and those are the messages that we need right away. But a lot of times we can, judge on what the messages are that are coming through. Songs. If we hear a song, whether it's on the radio or it is something that just keeps coming to you, I know I've had that. I'm sure you have too, where you've just had these songs just stuck in your head. And sometimes they've got a message for you. And so just by maybe going over the words of the song, maybe just the beat of the song, anything will actually trigger something that you'll receive that message. People talking may trigger something to where you actually, in that word, that the physical world, you'll hear something and it'll trigger something. So just by hearing, whether it's physical or it's in spirit through your ear chakras, those are messages that sometimes can trigger thoughts and images and be able to help you interpret maybe a message that's trying to come through. Touch. Sometimes if we just touch something, we'll hear something audibly. I know every once in a while when I would touch things that my mom had given me or certain things, I would hear her coughing. That was interesting because every time I would do that, I would hear in my, sometimes audibly, like physically audibly, I would hear her coughing, but she's not here. She's in spirit again. So it's all good. So even just touching an object or a person or a thing, anything, a plant will actually help trigger something and you'll hear it. So for clairaudience, you could possibly have some blocks in there. Maybe you've heard things and you've said, do you hear that so many times? Because you're very in tune with your clairaudient ability, that maybe because nobody else heard it, you just kind of shut it down or just kind of put a block there. It could be from a past lifetime. Maybe in a past life, you did receive clairaudient messages and maybe you were condemned for that. But just like something to put around so that you can't see or hear, we can take those down and we can know that those blocks were actually there to help you, and that actually helps to keep that hurt and that upsetness away from. Sometimes that will actually block you as well. So if you're really upset because you're not able to hear anything, if you just want to give up and you don't want to pursue it anymore because you can't hear anything, that actually builds the wall thicker. So what we need to do is we need to just forgive, let go, and just know that you have all of these clairs. You have all of these abilities. You are an intuitive being. You just are by nature, by being here, by being what you are and who you are an intuitive creature. So by opening the ear chakras, that will actually help. So just like with our third eye for seeing, we're going to actually use the clear crystal quartz for opening our ear chakras. And we can do it if you have two, you can put them side by side and just envision a bright light just streaming through that clear quartz and just radiating into those ear chakras and just clearing out any kind of past life, any debris, any old thoughts and old paradigms and old patterns. We can just clear all of that out and know that we can hear clearly. We are clairaudient. And just by doing that simple little practice, you'll be able to remove those blocks, clear out the clutter, and be able to hear just vividly. Sometimes what you'll notice is that, especially anytime that you're trying to meditate, anytime that you're trying to just relax and be, sometimes there's a lot of information coming, a lot at one time, and it's very chaotic sometimes, and it's just, there's so much going on that sometimes we need to just ask for peace. Sometimes we need to just be able to be with our own thoughts, with our own self, and just shut out maybe any of those messages and stuff. Now, if it's a really big message that you're needing to hear, that is the one in time that I've noticed that it doesn't matter. It's going to come through because you need to know it. And when your body is in a relaxed state, it just is more open to those things. But just by asking for peace, please let me have 10 minutes. Please let me have a few days. Please, until I ask to hear, please let me be at peace. Doesn't matter how much time that you're wanting away from that, just acknowledge what it is that you want. Just as in, if there's messages trying to come through and it's garbled, just by asking, can you please slow down? Can you please, I don't understand you. Could you please rephrase that? Could you please use English, Spanish, French, whatever it is that you're needing them to speak in? By asking them to come through more clearly, or even if they're sitting there talking to you, if you need a visual, just say, I hear you. Could you please show me what it is that you're trying to communicate to me? And they hear you just like you hear them. So it's very back and forth. It's not one way, even though you may not be able to physically see what it is that's coming through to you. Just know that it sees you, it hears you, and it's acknowledging you. And all you need to do is acknowledge that as well. Acknowledge that the messages that are coming through to you are the messages that you need. And if you need peace, ask for it. All right, wonderful. Let's get out of here. Oh, there we go. Okay, wonderful. I hope you learned a little bit about the Clairaudience, which is clear hearing, and we use it with our ear chakras. I'd love to hear what your experiences are with Clairaudience. Feel free to send me an email at tracy@versatileinspirations.com. All of my websites and email are right down below, and you can check me out online, and you can send me an email anytime. Take care. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, or morning, and I will talk with you soon. As always, I'm sending you and yours love, light, and eternal blessings. Take care.